It was raining the night Aaliyah was born. Not the gentle kind of rain that whispers against windows, but the kind that pounds the earth as if the sky itself is restless. Thunder rolled above St. Mary's Hospital, and the automatic doors opened and closed nonstop, letting in the smell of wet asphalt and panic. Inside the maternity ward, everything moved too fast. Nurses rushed down the hallway. Shoes squeaked against polished floors. A woman screamed from behind a closed door, her voice cracking with pain and fear. And in room 312, a young African-American woman named Monica Carter gripped the hospital bed rails so hard her knuckles turned white. "Breathe, Monica," the nurse said gently. "You're doing great." But Monica barely heard her. All she could think about was the baby. 16 hours of labor. 16 hours of pain. 16 hours of praying that the little life inside her would arrive safely. Her boyfriend, Derek, stood beside her, sweat rolling down his forehead though the room was cold. "You got this," he whispered. "She's almost here." They had already named her, Aaliyah, and just 2 doors down, another woman was giving birth. Her name was Renee Thompson. Unlike Monica, Renee was older, married, calm on the surface. Her husband sat quietly in the corner, hands folded, whispering prayers under his breath. Both women delivered baby girls. Both babies were born healthy. Both babies cried at the exact same time. And that's where the story should have ended. But it didn't, because the hospital was short-staffed that night, because a nurse was working a double shift, because 2 identical pink blankets were placed on the same metal cart, because someone tired human rushed, made a mistake that could never be undone. Aaliyah weighed 6 pounds, 8 ounces. She had a full head of dark curls and a cry so strong it filled the room. Monica wept as the nurse placed the baby on her chest. "My baby," she whispered. "My beautiful baby." She memorized her face instantly. The tiny nose, the dimple on the left cheek, the way her lips trembled when she cried. But after only a few minutes, the nurse gently lifted the baby away. "We're just going to clean her up and do some routine checks," she said. Monica nodded. She didn't know those few minutes would cost her 16 years. Down the hall, Renee's baby was also being taken for routine checks. 2 babies, 2 rooms, 1 hallway, and a moment where their futures quietly crossed paths. When the nurse returned to room 312, she placed the wrong baby into Monica's arms. No one noticed. Not Monica, not Derek, not the nurse. The baby still cried, still smelled new, still felt warm and alive. Love does not check wristbands. Love does not ask for proof. Love simply holds on. The next morning, discharge papers were signed. Monica dressed the baby in a yellow onesie she had packed weeks earlier. She kissed her forehead and whispered, "Welcome home, Aaliyah." Across town, Renee did the same with the other child. 2 mothers walked out of the same hospital, holding babies that were not biologically theirs. And somewhere in the hospital's computer system, a single file sat quietly, incorrect, unnoticed, waiting for the day the truth would come knocking. Aaliyah Carter grew up believing she was exactly where she belonged. At least, that's what everyone told her. She lived in a small brown house on the south side of the city. The paint on the porch rails was chipped. The screen door creaked every time it opened. On hot afternoons, the house smelled like fried onions, laundry detergent, and whatever was burning slightly on the stove. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. Monica raised Aaliyah the only way she knew how, with love that bordered on fear. She worked long shifts, came home exhausted, and still made time to braid Aaliyah's hair every Sunday night. "You gotta look neat for school," she'd say, fingers moving carefully through curls that never quite behaved. Aaliyah would sit between her mother's knees, staring at the TV, listening to familiar tug and snap of the comb. Sometimes it hurt, but she never complained, because Monica always kissed her scalp afterward. From the outside, Aaliyah looked like a normal little girl. Bright smile, sharp eyes, quiet confidence. But from the inside, something always felt off. She noticed it first in pictures. Family photos lined the living room wall. Monica, Derek, cousins, aunties, grandparents. Same smiles, Same cheekbones, same noses, and then there was Aaliyah. Same skin tone, same curls, but somehow different. Her nose was narrower, her eyes lighter, her face softer. At 6 years old, she stood in front of the wall one afternoon and tilted her head. "Mama," she asked. "Yes, baby." "Who do I look like?" Monica didn't hesitate. "You look like me." And Aaliyah nodded, because kids believe what love tells them. School was where the feeling grew louder. In first grade, her teacher once held up a class photo and joked, "You can tell who's related just by looking." The kids laughed. Aaliyah didn't, because when she looked around, she couldn't tell. At recess, a boy squinted at her and said, "You don't talk like your mama." "What you mean?" she asked. He shrugged. "I don't know. You just sound different." That night, she practiced her voice in the mirror. Lower, slower. Try to sound like home. By age 9, Aaliyah started asking questions she didn't know how to phrase. Why did she love reading when nobody else in the house did? Why did music calm her when chaos didn't? Why did she feel guilty for wanting things she couldn't name? She was smart. Too smart, some said. "Girl, you think too much." Her aunt laughed once. "You need to go outside." But thinking was the only place Aaliyah felt safe. Monica noticed it too. Not the questions, but the distance. Aaliyah hugged her back, but sometimes it felt delayed, like the child needed a second to remember how. At night, Monica would watch her sleep and feel something tighten in her chest. She blamed herself. "I work too much. I'm too hard on her. I don't listen enough." She never once blamed biology. When Aaliyah was 11, the first crack appeared. It happened at a family barbecue. Music was loud. Smoke filled the yard. Kids ran barefoot through the grass. One of Monica's cousins, half drunk, half careless, looked at Aaliyah and laughed. "That ain't your child." The music didn't stop. The laughter didn't stop. But something inside Aaliyah did. "What?" Monica snapped. "I'm just playing," the cousin said. "She just don't look like nobody here." Monica forced a smile. "She looks like me." But Aaliyah didn't hear the defense. She heard the doubt. That night, she stood in the bathroom, staring at her reflection. And for the first time, she asked herself a dangerous question. What if I don't belong here? Middle school was cruel in quiet ways. Teachers praised her, but didn't understand her. Friends liked her, but didn't really know her. At home, love was steady. But unquestioned love can feel heavy when you're questioning yourself. Aaliyah began keeping a notebook. She didn't write diary entries. She wrote observations. Mama gets mad fast, but forgives faster. Daddy avoids hard conversations. I feel guilty when I want more. One page, simply read. I feel like I'm borrowing this life. She didn't know why she wrote it. She just knew it was true. On her 13th birthday, Monica gave her a necklace. Inside the locket was a tiny picture of baby Aaliyah in the hospital. Pink blanket, wrinkled face, eyes closed. "You were so small," Monica said, smiling. "I was scared I'd break you." Aaliyah studied the photo. Something about it made her stomach twist. "Mama," she asked carefully, "do you remember when I was born?" Monica laughed. "Of course I do. Everything." "Yes." Aaliyah nodded, but the feeling didn't go away. The dream started soon after. Dreams of hallways, bright lights, crying she couldn't locate. She'd wake up with her heart racing, feeling like she had lost something, but not knowing what. At school, she learned about genetics in science class, blood types, DNA, inherited traits. That night, she Googled, "Can babies be switched at birth?" She closed the browser immediately. Her hands were shaking. Some questions feel illegal to ask. At 15, she took a part-time job at a grocery store. One afternoon, an elderly woman stared at her too long. "You look just like my daughter," the woman said softly. Aaliyah smiled politely. But as the woman walked away, Aaliyah felt something pull inside her chest. Who do I look like? The distance between her and Monica grew, not from lack of love, but from unspoken fear. Every argument felt bigger. Every silence felt heavier. And neither of them knew why. One night, after a bad fight, Aaliyah whispered something into her pillow. "I just want to know the truth." She didn't know what truth she meant, but somewhere the truth heard her. Across the city, past neighborhoods Aaliyah had never seen, past streets where hope didn't linger long. Another girl was growing up with questions of her own. Her name was Naomi Thompson, and unlike Aaliyah, Naomi had never felt safe pretending she belonged. Naomi's house was loud, not the joyful kind of loud, but the kind that came from thin walls, unpaid bills, and arguments that never quite ended. Renee Thompson loved her daughter. There was no question about that. But love doesn't always arrive gently. Sometimes it arrives tired, sometimes angry, sometimes late. Naomi learned early how to stay small. At 5 years old, she knew how to read a room. She could tell when her mother was too stressed to talk, too angry to listen, too broken to explain. So Naomi learned silence. She noticed things early too. Her mother's hands were rough, cracked from years of work. Naomi's were soft. Renee's voice was sharp, quick to rise. Naomi's was calm, almost careful. People used to say, "That girl acts grown." What they meant was, she didn't act like she belonged there. At school, teachers praised Naomi constantly. "She's bright," they said. "She's focused. She has so much potential." Renee nodded politely every time. But on the walk home, she'd say, "Don't let that school stuff go to your head." Naomi never did. She learned early that intelligence could feel like a betrayal. When Naomi was 8, she found an old photo album buried under her mother's bed. Curiosity pulled harder than fear. She flipped through pictures of Renee as a child, laughing, wild-eyed, full of fire. Then she found a picture of herself. A hospital photo. Pink blanket, wrinkled face, eyes closed. Naomi stared at it for a long time. Something about it didn't feel personal. She couldn't explain why. She just knew it felt borrowed. As she grew older, the differences became louder. Naomi didn't look like Renee. Same skin tone, but different features. Different bone structure. Different eyes. Strangers noticed too. At grocery stores. At bus stops. Is she adopted? People asked casually. Renee would snap back, "That's my child." And Naomi would look down, ashamed for reasons she couldn't name. By 13, Naomi had learned anger. Not the loud kind. The quiet, burning kind that sits in your chest and waits. She hated the house. Hated the shouting. Hated the feeling that her life was shrinking instead of growing. But most of all, she hated the question she couldn't stop asking. Why don't I feel like her? One night, after a bad argument, Naomi finally asked, "Why don't I look like you?" The room went silent. Renee froze, then laughed, a sharp, defensive laugh. "You got my cousin's features," she said. "Genes skip sometimes." Naomi nodded, but something in her stomach dropped, because the answer came too fast. Naomi started staying late at school, joined clubs, sat in libraries, walked home slowly. Anywhere that didn't feel like a mistake. Teachers encouraged her dreams. College, travel, a future bigger than the block she lived on. But every time she imagined leaving, guilt followed. What kind of daughter wants to escape her own mother? At 15, Naomi overheard a conversation she wasn't meant to hear. Renee was on the phone, voice low. "I did everything right," she said. "I raised her. She's ungrateful sometimes, but she's mine." Naomi stood frozen in the hallway. Mine. The word hit harder than expected, not because it sounded loving, but because it sounded defensive. That night, Naomi lay awake staring at the ceiling. She placed her hand over her chest and felt something ache. Not pain, not sadness, longing for something she couldn't name. Across the city at that exact moment, Aaliyah Carter was doing the same thing. 2 girls, same age, same questions, neither of them knowing that their answers lived inside each other. The truth rarely arrives all at once. It comes in fragments, in accidents, in moments that feel ordinary until they aren't. For Aaliyah Carter, the truth began with a school project. It was supposed to be simple. A genealogy assignment for her senior year biology class. A family tree, blood types, inherited traits. Nothing complicated, the teacher had said. Just talk to your parents. Aaliyah nodded along with everyone else, but something in her chest tightened. That night, she sat at the kitchen table with Monica. So what's our blood type? Aaliyah asked casually. Monica didn't look up from folding laundry. I'm O positive. Your dad was B. Aaliyah wrote it down, then paused. That means I can't be a B, she said softly. Monica froze. What? In science class, Aaliyah continued, trying to sound calm. They said if one parent is O and the other is B, the child can't be a B. Silence filled the kitchen. Monica laughed too quickly. Science teachers be wrong sometimes. But her hands were shaking. Aaliyah saw it, and something inside her clicked into place. That night, the dreams came back. Hospital lights, crying, a hallway she couldn't reach the end of. This time, she didn't wake up confused. She woke up afraid. Across the city, Naomi Thompson was having her own awakening. It started with a fight, a bad one. College brochures lay scattered across the table. Scholarship letters, possibility. Renee stood over them, arms crossed. You think you're better than me now, she snapped. Naomi swallowed hard. No, I just want... You want to leave. Renee cut in, just like everybody else. The words hit harder than Naomi expected. Why you always act like I'm a stranger to you? Naomi asked quietly. Renee's face changed. Fear flickered there, just for a second, then anger swallowed it whole. You're my child, she said sharply. Don't ever forget that. Naomi nodded, but she didn't believe it anymore. 2 weeks later, Chance intervened. Aaliyah's school offered free DNA kits as part of a health awareness program. Just ancestry stuff, they said. Fun facts. Aaliyah hesitated, then took one. She didn't tell Monica. She didn't tell anyone. Some truths feel safer when discovered alone. When the email arrived, it was ordinary. A subject line with no warning. Your DNA results are ready. Aaliyah stared at it for a long time, then clicked. Nothing made sense. No familiar surnames. No shared matches. No connection to the Carter family tree. Instead, strangers. Pages of them. Her hands went cold. She refreshed the page. Same result. She whispered, "No," but the screen didn't change. At the exact same time, Naomi was sitting in a public library. She had taken a DNA test too, not for school, for answers. When her results loaded, her breath caught. The surname Carter appeared again and again, too often to be coincidence. Her heart started pounding. She closed the laptop, opened it again. Still there. The truth didn't knock. It crashed. Aaliyah confronted Monica that night. She didn't scream, didn't accuse. She simply placed her phone on the table. Explain this. Monica stared at the screen, her face drained of color. This isn't real, she whispered. Tell me, Aaliyah said. Tell me the truth. Monica's knees buckled. She sat down slowly. Her voice broke. I never knew. Aaliyah felt something tear inside her chest. Then whose child am I? Monica opened her mouth, and no answer came out. Across the city, Naomi was asking Renee the same question. Renee denied it at first, then cried, then screamed, then whispered something she had never said out loud before. What if the hospital made a mistake? The room went silent. Records were requested. Hospitals were called. Files were pulled from dusty archives. And one document, yellowed, misfiled, untouched for years, finally told the truth. 2 baby girls. Same night, same hospital, same nurse, different names, wrong homes. When Aaliyah learned she had been switched at birth, she didn't cry. She laughed, a short, broken sound that scared everyone in the room. So my whole life, she said slowly, was someone else's? Monica reached for her. Aaliyah pulled away. Naomi reacted differently. She cried until her body shook, not because she was angry, but because something finally made sense. "I knew it," she whispered. "I knew I wasn't crazy." The meeting was arranged. Neutral ground. A quiet office. 2 families. 2 girls. 1 truth. The door opened. Aaliyah looked up and felt something deep in her chest recognize what her mind couldn't yet accept. Naomi froze. They stared at each other. Same eyes. Same bone structure. Same quiet stillness. The room disappeared. No one spoke. Because what do you say when you're looking at the life you were supposed to live? The room felt too small for the truth it was holding. For adults sat in silence. 2 girls sat between worlds. And one mistake, made years ago, refused to stay buried. No one knew where to sit. No one knew who should speak first. Because every word felt like it would cost someone something they could never get back. Aaliyah sat with her hands folded neatly in her lap. She looked calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that comes when a heart has already stepped back, protecting itself from what it knows is coming. Across from her sat Naomi. Naomi's knee bounced uncontrollably. Her fingers twisted together in her hoodie sleeves. She kept glancing at Monica. She didn't know why. She just knew something about her felt familiar. The social worker finally spoke. "We understand this is overwhelming," she said gently. "Our priority is the emotional well-being of both girls." Monica barely heard her. She was watching Aaliyah, the girl she had raised, the girl she had loved without hesitation, the girl whose scraped knees she had kissed, whose fever she had stayed up through, the girl who was not hers. Renee broke the silence. "I want my daughter," she said. The words landed like broken glass. Naomi flinched. Aaliyah didn't move. Monica inhaled sharply. "She is your daughter," Renee continued, her voice trembling now. "By blood." Monica stood slowly. "And by love," she said quietly. No one spoke, because everyone in the room knew both women were right. Aaliyah finally lifted her head. "What happens now?" she asked. Every adult turned toward her, and in that moment, they realized something terrifying. This decision wasn't really theirs. The weeks that followed were unbearable. Court dates, therapy sessions, endless conversations that went in circles. Aaliyah was encouraged to bond with Renee. Naomi was encouraged to connect with Monica. The words felt cold, as if love could be scheduled, as if identity could be rearranged. Aaliyah tried. She really did. She met Renee for coffee, listened to stories, studied her face for familiarity. But every laugh felt borrowed. Every hug felt forced. And every time Renee said, "My baby," Aaliyah felt herself fading a little more. Naomi's experience was different. Monica never pushed. She didn't claim her, didn't correct her, didn't ask for anything. She just showed up, sat beside her, listened when Naomi talked, stayed quiet when Naomi didn't. One afternoon, Naomi broke. "I don't know why this hurts so much," she cried. Monica didn't answer. She just held her, and somehow that was enough. The media found the story. Headlines spread. Switched at birth, 2 families shattered. Strangers debated online. Blood versus love. Truth versus comfort. Mistake versus destiny. But no one asked the girls what they needed, until the judge did. "Where do you feel safe?" he asked gently. The room held its breath. Aaliyah spoke first. "I feel safe where I grew up," she said. Monica's chest tightened. "But," Aaliyah continued, her voice shaking, "I also feel like I need to know where I come from." Renee wiped tears from her face. Then Naomi spoke. "I don't want to lose my mom," she said, looking at Renee. "But I don't want to lose her either." She looked at Monica, and in that moment, the truth became clear. This wasn't about choosing homes. It was about surviving the truth without losing yourself. The judge ruled carefully. No forced transfers. No erased bonds. Both girls would stay where they were raised. Both families would remain connected. No one won, but no one lost everything. That night, Aaliyah lay in her childhood bed. Same walls, same posters, same ceiling she had stared at for years. But her heart felt different. She whispered into the quiet, "Who am I now?" Across the city, Naomi stood in front of her mirror. She touched her face, saw Renee, saw Monica, saw herself. For the first time, she didn't feel wrong. Months passed. Pain softened into something livable. Holidays were awkward. Birthdays were shared. Love learned new shapes. One afternoon, Aaliyah and Naomi sat together on a park bench. No parents, no pressure, just truth. I used to think belonging meant choosing, Aaliyah said. Naomi nodded. But maybe, Aaliyah continued, it means holding more than one truth at once. Naomi smiled softly. Yeah, she said. Maybe. Some families are born, some are made, and some are discovered after the truth finally finds its voice.